Hello everyone, today I'm going to tell you a chilling tale about a notorious band of murderous bandits that struck terror across Shandong province in China during the 1920s. At the heart of this fearsome group was their ruthless leader, Willow Guidong. With his natural gift for leadership and a vicious streak that ran deep in his veins, Willow Guidong commanded a staggering force of over 30 Akazulars bandits, wreaking havoc across Hebei, Henan, Shandong, and countless other provinces. For 29 years, they dominated more than half of China. Wherever they went, they left a trail of devastation, arson, slaughter, looting, and unspeakable violence against women. But that's not all. This cunning and treacherous mastermind, Willow, was also a master of deceit, forging alliances with both local warlords and foreign enemies to line his own pockets. So, who was Willow Guidong, and just how horrifying were the crimes he committed? Willow Guidong, also known as Black Seven Willow, was a name that rivaled even the most powerful feudal warlords of his time, from the 1920s to the 1940s. Despite his infamous reputation, his origins were far from glorious, and his childhood was anything but easy. Willow was the son of a low-ranking soldier and a village widow, born during a time of chaos and upheaval. His early years were filled with hardship. By the age of 8, Willow Guidong was already working as a shepherd for wealthy landowners. The work was grueling, and the landowners were cruel, bullying and exploiting him at every turn. If he made even the slightest mistake, they would beat him savagely or starve him. Yet, to survive, he had no choice but to endure 8 long years of misery and humiliation. Through this brutal labor, Willow honed remarkable skills, climbing mountains with ease and mastering the art of throwing stones with deadly precision, skills he later used to fend off foreign invaders. These early experiences laid a solid foundation for his eventual rise as the most feared bandit leader in northern China. As he grew older, Willow Guidong left his village behind, but with no education or prospects. He could only scrape by with unstable, low-paying jobs. The relentless struggle forged in him an iron will, but it also planted the seeds of resentment and ambition. He began to dream of a shortcut to wealth and power. At that time, during the early years of the Republic of China, warlords were locked in fierce battles for control, and bandits roamed the land unchecked. Many of these outlaws set up strongholds in the mountains, brazenly robbing and terrorizing villagers. In Lunan, the region where Willow lived, banditry was especially rampant. Seeing these criminals live lavishly without lifting a finger, Willow grew envious and bitter. The idea of becoming a bandit took root in his mind. He rallied a small group of local thugs, forming a gang of 7. Together, they unleashed chaos in the area, committing every crime imaginable. Being the youngest of the group and having a dark complexion, his comrades nicknamed him Black Seven Willow. In those lawless times, outlaws like Willow Guidong were as countless as the stars. Willow, with his cunning, lured these desperados into his fold, tempting them with promises of riches or forcing them through sheer intimidation. In no time, his gang swelled to 300 or 400 men. They rampaged through Yemen, robbing, killing, and torching entire villages without a shred of mercy. Though the Qing dynasty was crumbling, it hadn't yet collapsed entirely. But the rampant banditry plaguing the land was too widespread for the Qing forces to quell every gang. Instead, they resorted to executing a few notorious leaders to set an example. Unfortunately for Willow Guidong, he caught their attention. The Qing army launched a fierce crackdown, shattering his gang into pieces. But Willow was no ordinary criminal. He was sharp as a blade. Sensing the tide turning against him, he slipped away in the chaos. Not long after, he joined the ranks of a legendary bandit leader, Sun Meiyao. Yet, Willow, accustomed to being the boss, chafed under someone else's command. Resentment festered, and he began plotting to overthrow Sun. By a twist of fate, before Willow could strike, Sun was taken out by another rival, Seizing the moment, Willow claimed the mountain stronghold for himself, rising as the most feared bandit chief in the region. Over time, Black Willow's gang grew into a formidable force of over 1,000 men. With their overwhelming numbers, Willow frequently led raids down the mountains, plundering villages and demanding tributes from terrified locals. Some villages, ravaged by war and disease, barely had enough food to survive. But Willow didn't care. If they failed to deliver, he unleashed slaughter without hesitation. Driven to despair, many villagers saw no way out but to throw themselves into wells, choosing death over torment. But Willow's cruelty knew no bounds. He ordered his men to hurl stones into the wells, crushing any hope of mercy. This unimaginable act pushed the villagers past their breaking point. In a surge of righteous fury, they rose up against him, fighting back with whatever they had. But they were like eggs smashing against a rock, utterly outmatched. When Willow captured these rebels, he subjected them to barbaric tortures, boiling them in vats of oil, scalding them in steaming water, burning them alive, and countless other inhumane atrocities. As Willow Guidong's infamy spread, local authorities took notice and sent troops to hunt him down once more. But Willow was as sly as a fox. With his vast stockpile of stolen wealth, he struck a deal with the very soldiers sent to capture him. According to his scheme, the troops would stage a failed raid on his gang. Willow and his men would pretend to flee in fear, leaving behind a cache of weapons and equipment. The soldiers would then retreat, giving Willow the chance to swoop back in, reclaim his gear, and collect the surplus weapons the army conveniently left behind. In exchange, Willow placed a hefty sum of silver at the site. The soldiers, claiming they were still pursuing the bandits, would return to pocket the silver. Through this cunning ploy, Willow lost nothing in fact. His gang gained even more ammunition. Over the next 3 years, he recruited relentlessly, ballooning his gang to over 10,000 men, making it the largest and most terrifying bandit force in Shandong. Now a veritable warlord, Willow Guidong's cruelty grew even more monstrous, his reign of terror unmatched. In January 1926, Willow Guidong unleashed a wave of unspeakable atrocities. When his attack on Mayu village failed, he ordered his thugs to burn it to the ground, slaughtering 393 villagers, wiping out 11 families entirely, and abducting 152 others. Just 3 months later, he struck Dayan village, annihilating 48 of its 92 households, killing 559 of the 637 residents, along with 388 others, in less than 3 years, from 1925 to 1928. In Yemen, Shandong alone, thousands of villages fell victim to Willow's rampage. Over 200,000 homes were reduced to ashes. More than 12,000 innocent people were massacred, and countless women were subjected to horrific violence. Despite knowing of Willow Guidong's barbaric crimes, the warring factions of warlords, locked in their own power struggles, could neither control nor destroy his gang. Unable to ignore his atrocities but powerless to eliminate him outright, the warlord authorities had no choice but to issue a bounty for his capture. This marked a turning point for Willow, who now set his sights on building a lasting power base for his clan. His first move was to bribe Han Fuk, an official in Henan, with 17,000 toils of silver and 200 sacks of flour. But Willow had no intention of serving Han, whom he considered too weak. Instead, he swiftly aligned himself with Chiang Kai-shek's regime, securing a position as commander of the 4th National Division. Soon after, during the Central Plains War, Willow led his forces to crush Feng Yuxiang's army, earning him the title of Steel Division from Chiang Kai-shek himself. Yet, despite the praise, Chiang offered Willow no real rewards, leaving him deeply dissatisfied. When Yan Xinshan rose to prominence with wealth and influence, Willow didn't hesitate to betray Chiang and join Yan's faction. Yan immediately appointed him commander of the 26th Army and equipped him with machine guns and mortars to bolster his strength. Once again, Willow's influence surged, but his loyalty to Yan was short-lived. Unable to suppress his predatory instincts, he resumed plundering, causing endless trouble for Yan. Furious, Yan tried to rein him in by ordering Willow to return to Shaanxi under the pretext of caring for his sick family. But Willow, having tasted power, wasn't about to retreat so easily. Defiant, he gathered his loyal troops, abandoned Yan's forces, and headed north to join Zhang Xueliang's camp, ready to carve out yet another chapter in his ruthless quest for dominance. Through his relentless betrayals and shifting allegiances, Willow Guidong's power only grew stronger. Under his iron grip, his army of thugs swelled to over 30 Gassoundlerts, ready to burn, loot, and commit every vile act imaginable. More than 10 provinces bore the brunt of his attacks and massacres, fueling widespread outrage. Among the bandit world, a saying circulated, "Follow the mayor, roam the land." It spoke not only to Willow Guidong's savage dominance, but also to the terrifying reach of his influence. Soon after, his reputation as a treacherous turncoat earned him the deep contempt of Chiang Kai-shek's regime. Determined to crush him, Chiang dispatched a massive army to take him down. In no time, Willow's tens of thousands of bandits were decimated, leaving his gang with just 2,000 men. Panicked, Willow fled back to his old haunts in Shandong. But even there, he couldn't resist resuming his spree of atrocities. What he didn't anticipate was that he'd caught the eye of a powerful foe none other than Han Fuch, the governor of Shandong. To Han, Willow's presence was a direct threat to his interests, and the sting of Willow's earlier betrayal still burned. Han resolved to destroy him once and for all. But Willow, seasoned from years of operating in the rugged mountains and intimately familiar with the terrain, proved elusive. Despite Han's repeated attempts to encircle him, Willow always slipped away. Frustrated, Han Fuch changed tactics. He kidnapped one of Willow's wives, hoping to force him into surrender. But Han underestimated Willow's callousness. Willow had many wives and cared little for the fate of just one. Undeterred, Han devised a new plan. Learning that Willow was deeply devoted to his mother, Han had her abducted, demanding Willow's surrender. This time, the ploy worked. Out of love for his mother, Willow gave himself up without hesitation. Han, seizing the opportunity, appointed him deputy commander of the Shandong Defense Force. Yet, true to form, Willow couldn't abandon his bandit ways. He resumed his old habits of arson, murder, and plunder. Han, realizing Willow's reckless brutality was impossible to control, cut off his supply of weapons, ammunition, and food. Predictably, this pushed Willow to betray Han once again. Willow openly sided with Han Fuch's enemies, igniting Han's fury. Han ordered a plot to assassinate him, but the cunning Willow slipped through the trap yet again. He fled to Reihe, pledging loyalty to the governor of Shanxi, Song Jian, who made him commander of bandit suppression in Zedong. The irony was laughable, a notorious bandit now tasked with hunting his own kind. But, as always, Willow's loyalty was fleeting. When Song Jian's forces cornered him on a mountain in Nankou, with his army on the brink of annihilation, Willow didn't hesitate. He ordered his men to abandon everything and flee. And by everything, Willow meant not just guns, horses, and ammunition, but also his own wives and children, left behind without a second thought. Willow Guidong took the lead with ruthless precision. He personally executed all his wives, then turned the machine guns on his own men, mowing them down in an instant. With these brutal and animalistic tactics, he slipped through the encirclement of Song's forces without a hitch. A few months later, Willow slunk back to his old hideout in Shandong, but Han Fuch's grudge against him still burned fiercely. Determined to capture him alive, Han mobilized 5 divisions, personally overseeing the operation. He deployed bulldozers along the mountain passes and, to block Willow's escape into the highlands, summoned the Navy from Qingdao to seal off the ports and coastal routes. The Nanning authorities even sent aircraft to support the Haifu region. Under this relentless three-pronged assault by sea, land, and air, Willow's forces were devastated, reduced to fewer than 100 men. Realizing the situation was dire, Willow disguised himself and fled by sea to Tianjin. When Han Fuku got wind of this, he immediately dispatched assassins to Tianjin to finish him off. But Willow's luck was uncanny, though gravely wounded. He clung to life. While nursing his injuries, he began searching for a new patron. He knew his repeated betrayals had made him a pariah among China's warlords, with few willing to take him in. So, in a final act of treachery, Willow turned traitor, becoming a collaborator for the Japanese, a despised Great Han traitor. Serving the Japanese emperor, he repeatedly attacked Han Chinese forces, mercilessly crushing those resisting Japanese occupation. Under Japan's protection, his gang ballooned back to 30,000 its men. But, as his numbers swelled, Willow's old habits resurfaced. He soon clashed with his Japanese masters and defected yet again, this time to Yu Suizhong, the commander-in-chief of the Lusu region. Though he pledged to fight alongside Yu against the Japanese, Willow's supposed resistance was a sham, a cover for his true aim of seizing control of Lusu and overthrowing Yu. In 1939, the 115th Division marched into southern Lusu, establishing an anti-Japanese base at Baotou. But Willow Guidong had already entrenched himself there. As Han Chinese forces advanced, Willow's true colors began to show. By 1940, he surrendered to the Japanese yet again, while secretly aligning with the Nationalist Party. In areas controlled by Chiang, he proclaimed himself a commander of the Central Army. In enemy territory, he styled himself a commander of the Japanese Emperor's forces. Astonishingly, his entire army was equipped with 2 sets of uniforms, one yellow, one gray, allowing them to draw supplies from both the Nationalists and the Japanese. Throughout this period, Willow Guidong unleashed a torrent of atrocities. He massacred anti-Japanese civilians, sabotaging the resistance effort. The infamous Tagu incident was his handiwork. In 1940, he led a northern raid on the Han Chinese 3rd Team at Tagu, resulting in the deaths of over 200 cadres and ethnic soldiers. That same November, he burned more than 60 villages to the ground. He repeatedly attacked his own people's forces, brutally rounding up members of underground anti-Japanese organizations. Those caught were buried alive in savage executions. Beyond targeting resistance fighters, Willow preyed on villagers. Wherever he went, his men plundered mercilessly. No beautiful woman in a village was safe from his grasp. Those who submitted were taken as concubines. Those who resisted were raped and slaughtered. Incomplete records estimate that Willow killed thousands of women, with around 80 forced to become his concubines. Yet, life for these women was far from bearable. Willow treated them like caged animals, locked away in his compounds. Unbeknownst to him, their suffering fueled rebellion. Unable to endure his cruelty, they secretly conspired with his guards, ensuring that none of the children they bore were his. For 29 years, Willow Guidong terrorized China, slaughtering over 200 Taodalan civilians and orchestrating countless village massacres. His relentless sabotage of the anti-Japanese resistance could not go unpunished. On January 15th, 1943, the Linan Military District, alongside local armed forces, stormed his stronghold. In just 2 hours, the regular army obliterated most of Willow's gang. As the tide turned against him, Willow fled to the mountains, but the pursuing forces hunted him down and killed him on Juzi Mountain, finally ending his 29-year reign of terror that had ravaged half of China. The story of Willow Guidong's bandit empire, once rivaling a regular army, still sends chills through those who hear it. The sole redeeming trait in his life was his filial devotion, but it pales against the monstrous, frenzied crimes of a man who abandoned all humanity and loyalty. Willow Guidong's end serves as a stark reminder no matter how long injustice persists, it will inevitably fall to justice. What do you think of Willow Guidong's bandit gang?